New selection pack, Aerial Superiority, is coming out in just 2 days, and we're going to have a $1,000 tournament qualifier with that new pack on this Friday, twitch.tv/Decade. This will be changing everything. The new best deck is in this pack. I'm going to let you know everything you need to know about all the cards coming here. Let's hop in. Boom. Now, we know that Malice after the ban list is still pretty damn good, but that's not going to be an issue with the new cards coming out. There's no way that any of the current decks are going to be as good as the brand new Dracotail, and we'll be going into all the details there. You're going to learn very quickly about the end boards, their disruption of Dracotail, Artmage, and also Odion. So without further ado, let's hop in. Boom, onto Yu-Gi-Oh! Meta, we're going to look at the tier list, and you can see in the past month, Dracotail is the #1 deck, and I would argue that Malice is worse off in Master than in the TCG, and if we look at the OCG tier list, let's switch this on over. Past month, Dracotail, best deck. If we go last 2 months, it did drop a bit because there were nerfs to other decks, but we don't have those other decks yet, so I do believe until we get the other decks, Dracotail will be the uncontested best deck. And if we look at the Dracotail deck breakdown, this is what the deck is looking like. If we click on OCG, it also looks like that. We are going to be using and abusing Branded Fusion in this deck, and there's a card that they don't have in the TCG nor OCG that we do in Master Duel, and that's going to be the Anaconda, banned in both other formats. Now, a cool trick you could do is type in Dracotail, semicolon, and the word cannot special. This will dictate what summon restrictions are in the deck. And more specifically, you could type in Dracotail in the deck breakdown, so it could be cards that are not just Dracotail cards. So if we expand this, boom, it's now going to showcase Branded Fusion. So you should know that Branded Fusion restricts you from the extra deck the entire turn, before and after Branded Fusion. But if we look at Rahu Dracotail, it's only for the rest of the turn. And similar to that, the Malulu is for the rest of the turn. Meaning, what you could do in this deck is you could summon your Anaconda. So let's put that real quick, Anaconda. And then, after summoning Anaconda, you could then freely use your Rahu Dracotail, or if this gets ashed, then make Anaconda afterward, and you'll be making your full play of going into your Mirror Jade and all that good stuff. Let's quickly see a deck list or two, then I'm going to show you the end board. Now, here are all the regional and YCS recent tops. We could do is on the filter, you could filter by tier 3 only if you'd like. And oh my cheese, we even have a first place tournament deck list right here. YCS Pittsburgh, all this good stuff. So you see that. Make sure you go onto the website yourself if you want more specifically a good deck list. We could zoom out now. We do not have the Fallen and Virtuous. It's not needed for the deck to be good. And I'll tell you this. What's probably going to happen is what happened with Malice. What happened with Malice? Everyone started main deck in Lancia. Well, there's going to be a new hand trap to main deck in town, and that card is going to be the Retaliating Sea. This will be incredibly annoying. When the opponent activates a spell card that includes the effect of special summon, you could then summon this from the hand. The opponent's going to do this to you if you're playing Dracotail. And then, while face up, any card sent to the graveyard is banished instead. You freaking what, mate? If you're enjoying White Forest, I'm sorry, they're going to summon this against your Holiday Amina. And because the Key 2 Dracotail includes the effect of special summon in addition to searching, you could use it on the Key 2 or the Rahu, and then just like that, Macrocosmos on the freaking field. And that's probably a good reason why they're playing the Fallen Virtuous to help deal with this, which we're not going to have. So do prepare for that annoyance. Now, let's quickly understand this deck. I'm not here to teach you a combo. I'm here to teach you the deck. So with a 1.5 card combo, if they have their regular monster, there's multiple ways, a very consistent deck, they're going to have an end board looking like this. Now, let's translate what this end board means. Let's click on the first card here, the Gulamel on the field. In response to a Dracotail card activation, they have to be the direct chain link to that card. They can then target one card the opponent controls and destroy it. That means you could chain link block this with anything, but they're going to have so many cards that they could activate that this will be able to chain to that you're likely not going to be consistently being able to chain link block this. So that's at least one disruption. We then have the Thamina. This is a turn 0 fusion card. That means if your opponent goes first, this is one of your hand traps now. You're going to play 3 of this. During the main phase quick effect, you discard this card. It is fingerable. You could fusion summon into something like the Gulamel, or better, you could fusion summon into the Artmage. This is going to be one of the key cards of the deck. It's going to be summoned during the opponent's turn and even during the Dracotail player's turn. On Fusion Summon, you can target monsters on the field or in any graveyard up to the number of monsters used as material from the hand, return them to the hand. So not only using this as disruption, but it's a key way to reload your cards from your own graveyard back to your hand, which could even be your hand traps. You used up an Ash because they maxed you at the start of the turn. Well, you could add that Ash right back to your hand to make sure it's usable during the opponent's turn. And of course, you can recycle your Max freaking C, which they can't do in the TCG. You know, that's going to be quite interesting. But I think more importantly, you're going to be recycling your own Dracotail cards engraved back to the hand, which is, I'm going to tell you right now, if they summon this turn 1 and they get really greedy, let's say they use 3+ monsters in their hand to then summon this to return 3 engraved back, you have to impermanence this. Imperm is going to be the key card to stop this. Now, if you want to stop getting impermed, you're going to try to have a quick effect fusion in response to the impermanence. So don't get too greedy by initiating this with a Femina, then trying to fuse your entire hand, then losing to an impermanence. So that's at least one disruption there, plus reloading your hand traps and all that good stuff. In the back row, they're going to have a Dracotail Horn, or they're going to have a Dracotail Flame. They could also have the Dracotail Trap that banishes cards from the graveyard. That is going to be the Dracotail Sting. All 3 of these cards are Ghost Bellable or Ashable to completely stop their effect. So in addition to Retaliating Sea, Ghost Spell may be something you want to play if you really want to stop these cards, because all 3 of those traps have the effect to additionally draw a card. Now, by being able to draw a card, that could be fuel for your fusions or drawing into hand traps, of course. We know how good randomly drawing in Malice is, as they constantly draw into even more fuel to make their end board better. But more importantly, this is going to target an attack position monster on the field, return it back to the hand or extra. The Flame is going to target a face-up spell on the field, negating its effects. So we already talked, return cards back, pop on the field, fuse during the opponent's turn, return a monster back, negate a spell, but wait, there's more. If you fuse with the Malulu, this will non-target negate the effects of one face-up monster the opponent controls. It's also a permanent freaking negate. And all of the Dracotails, when fused with, they're going to be able to plus like crazy. They're going to set a Dracotail spell or trap card from the freaking deck, in addition to what other effects they have. Now, the Malulu, for example, let's say I have Malulu and I'm going to fusion summon against you. If you activate a fusion card, let's say you activate Branded Fusion, and I chain my fusion card, well, what's going to happen is I'm the non-turn player, and the non-turn player optional trigger is going to be the higher chain link. So if I know you're activating something that will initiate a trigger effect on a separate chain, this will now negate that freaking card. And another example of that mentality is, let's say you activate a Rhino Heart tier limit to send a tier from the deck to the grave. What are you trying to do? You're going to trigger a fusion summon effect on a new chain. Well, if I chain fuse into Artmage in response to your Rhino Heart, I'm going to be the higher chain link to return that monster back to the hand. But, you know, maybe that's not a good example because it's not returning it back in the deck. But that's the mindset of the Malulu, of you wanting to get these mad lads out of here by negating their monster on a higher chain. Now, we have the Urgula. Urgula is going to destroy one spell and trap card on the field, non-targeting, if used for fusion. And what's also really good about this is it reloads your Femina from the graveyard back to your hand, not as a quick effect. And then we have the Pan, which will non-target destroy a monster on the field if used for fusion. What else do we have? Well, that would be it for Dracotails. We're going to be moving on to Artmage right after. So that is what you're going to be dealing with. The endless pluses of when they fuse to set cards in the deck, recycling cards in the graveyard, returning your monsters back or from your graveyard back to your hand if you're trying to make a play with them. And that's why this deck is super top tier and will be the best deck. Now, on to Artmage. Artmage is not as good. It's going to be a fun rogue deck. Past 3 months on the tier list of Yu-Gi-Oh! Meta, it's all the way down here. If we look on to the OCG, it's pretty much the same, not doing so hot. But that's okay. I'm happy to have decks like this that are fun, that are never going to get hit by the ban list, and none of your opponents are going to know how to play against this. What is so good about this? Let's first see some deck lists. We have a 200-player regional. This is a Genesis, so you don't care about that. 300-player regional. We click on OCG. Here is a top 8 of a 240-player event. We have Azamina in this list. Also, they're using Brilliant Fusion, which only we have at 3. So maybe that's going to be a big benefit. And then here's with Fiendsmith. Now, let's try to understand this deck type real quick. We have new Artmage, changes a lot, 1.5 card combo. Again, we're not here to learn the combo. We're here to just look at the end board of what they can commonly possibly make. And it's going to look something like this. We have Cross Sheep. We have a new cool boss monster in the field. And again, shout out to all the YouTubers that we're looking at right now. So Rogue to Competitive and also Chico Master Duel so far. What is this exactly going to entail? Let's look. The Artmage Pact in the graveyard is going to be banishing this card, target an Artmage you control, return it to the hand or extra deck. If you do, non-target destroy a card in the field that is in the graveyard with this end field. And then we have a really cool boss monster, Nerva, the Power of Patron of Creation. This states that when you activate an Artmage monster effect, which means the opponent could chain link block this with anything, you could then change your own effect directly chaining to it to now it says destroy all cards your opponent controls. Not monsters, not back row, everything. All cards get destroyed if you could directly chain to any Artmage monster activating on the field, hand, or grave, wherever it is. Now, what else we have here? We have the Artmage Masterwork, a quick play spell, which allows us to fusion summon during the opponent's turn within the main phase that is. And what can we fuse into? We could fuse into the Artmage Deoctorus. This will be a Medius the Pure plus an Artmage monster. And this states that when your opponent activates a card or effect in the field, you can negate the activation and destroy that card. Now, the restriction is you have to yourself control 3 or more different monster types, which you're going to easily have that on the field. And also, when this is just fusion summoned itself, or I should say when this card is destroyed, you could special summon a Medius the Pure from your hand, deck, or banishment, and then that will trigger on the field. What else we have? We have the Cross Sheep, which when we're performing that fusion summon play or a special summon while this is pointing to a fusion, it's going to reborn a monster from the graveyard. That reborn could be a Power Patron play, which has the effect to fusion summon. So we have the quick play spell, we have another fusion summon play, or you could reborn from the graveyard a Latera. Latera states during the opponent's main phase, you could special summon an Artmage monster from your hand or graveyard. Well, what could that be? We could summon a Graflair. Graflair is a quick effect if you control 3 or more different monster types, which could destroy a back row card. Not really that great of a disruption, but what about this one? Finmel. Finmel states during the main phase, if you control 3 or more different monster types, you can non-target, negate the effects of all face-up monsters the opponent controls. I think that's quite wild. Now, that is pretty much the summary of this. He is also playing Silvera. Silvera is going to be an additional negate. I'm not sure if that's going to be the best way to play it. I would say that this is an unsolved deck. We're not going to know the best way to play it. And I think because the deck is heavily revolving around the 3 monster type restriction, that's why this is not super top tier. But if you're able to brute force through that and your opponent's not too disruptive, this is going to be a crazy good deck. A lot of fun that is. What I remember from playing it myself is the field spell. This is not a hard once per turn. During your main phase, you can additionally summon. That's great. But the other effect is discard a spell trap card, declare the name of an Artmage you do not control. Then you add that from your deck to your hand. And you can activate this effect, I think, where is this? You could only declare each card name once per turn to activate this. So you could just keep on activating this as long as it's not the same monster. So that is what Artmage is. Let's now hop on over to Odion. Is Odion good? Well, in the past 2 months of the OCG, it's looking like this. They got 27 tops, about 4% of the meta. Not crazy top tier. Again, Dracotail is going to be the big one. This is the last 2 months of the OCG. If we look at the TCG past 3 months, it's a bit worse, about 1% of the meta. Now, again, a rogue deck could be a lot of fun to play in Master Duel. And what does that entail here? Odion deck breakdown. For Master Duel meta, I'm going to add the word Odion to a bunch of these cards, so it's going to be easier to search in the search, so you're not having to type the man. I guess a key word that you could search for is a key card of this is the Temple of the Kings. Now, let's see what an end board is looking like and what we should know about this deck. This is an example of a 1.5 card combo. and then they're going to end on something like this. What the heck is this? Well, let's take a gander at that. So on the field, we're going to have the Temple of the Kings, which you could activate a trap card the turn it was set. Why does that matter during the opponent's turn? How is that a disruption? Well, you could easily search for and use your Lord of Heavenly Prison, which after a set spell and trap card is activated, which would be your own, it could be the opponent's if you want, you could then special summon this card from your hand, and then you could set a spell/trap card directly from your deck, but banish it during the end phase of the next turn. Notice how it doesn't say normal spell/trap. It does have the downside of banishing it during the end phase of the next turn, and it does not say activatable the turn it's set, but that's where you have the Temple of the freaking Kings, and that means you can set any floodgate you want, straight up. You do lose it during the next end phase, or you could set the Imperial Iron Wall if you want. That's Iron Wall, Iron W. Neither player could banish cards, so if you're still struggling against Malice, I guess you now could search and set this, and then it won't get banished because it even protects itself. That's going to be quite nasty. Now, will this be the common way to play it? Hopefully not. We are in a best-of-one meta, so there's no side deck. If people want to be setting skill drain and flipping it up the turn it was set, even because there's no side deck to deal with this, that may be what's popular. But more common, they're going to instead be setting from the deck this card. When your opponent activates a spell trap card while you control 3 or more other spell traps, you can negate the activation, and if you do, destroy that card. Then, if you control a Temple of the Kings, which you will, you could then destroy as many monsters your opponent controls. Your opponent will see this coming because you are setting it from the deck, so they're going to know to just not activate a spell and trap card, but just not being able, that almost floodgates them out from using a spell and trap card, right? They're going to have multiple good, worthy of negating spell and trap cards to even want to trigger this, and then they're going to have to make sure they don't have monsters on the field, otherwise you wipe them out. So you could almost see this as a pseudo floodgate, which will be in your back row. You also have the Silhat Rabbit, which the deck is all about trap monsters summoning from the back row, which will trigger this to target a spell and trap card your opponent controls to then destroy it. And also on Link Summon, you could set a continuous trap directly from your deck with the effect of special summon itself, so it's got that insane synergy with the deck. And what else we have in the back row is going to be this one, Apophis, the Swamp Deity. You special summon this from the back row, and then you can non-target, negate the effects of face-up cards your opponent controls up to the number of other continuous traps you control. They activate a branded fusion, you could special summon this and negate it, just straight up. A monster effect on the same exact chain. You're not activating on a separate chain link, just directly chain link to get negated. And what else do we have here? We have the Statue of Anguish pattern. You're going to want to summon this early, and then even this could be triggering the summon of your Heavenly Prison to then also get that out early. And once you have this up on the field, it states that if a card is special summoned from your spell and trap zone, you could then target a card in the field and destroy it. It is not a hard once per turn. You're going to have multiple summons from the back row for multiple pops on the field. And this card cannot be targeted by the opponent's card effects while you control another trap card that is a monster. Multi-pop, pop, 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 pop. And then, while this was not on the end field in the example because they went the Heavenly Prison route, you could potentially have this on top of it, if your hand is good enough, or just have this be a part of your standard combo. What's really good about this is you're going to tribute your 2 Apophis monsters to summon this, and then you could target up to 3 Apophis traps with different names in your graveyard, set them. So a really good recursion effect to continually recycle your traps in grave. And also, if a trap card is activated, you will then be able to, on a separate chain link trigger, to target one card the opponent controls and destroy as another form of disruption. So overall, we have Odion is going to be a fun rogue deck. Well, unless it's floodgating you, then that's not so fun. We also have the Artmage deck, which is going to be another rogue deck. And then the new best deck, which will be Dracotail straight up, hands down. This will be the deck to beat. Consider playing Ghost Spells if you want far-reaching hand traps that could work against multiple decks, or even if you want to go crazy like we did with Lancia, Retaliating Sea is going to be the card to be. This card's not an ultra rare, right? For sure. Konami keeps messing this up. They could have made so much more money if they made Lancia ultra rare and Retaliating Sea. That's a good thing for us. But boy, I'm going to be upset for all of the White Force players that inadvertently are the collateral damage due to Dracotail. Hopefully this is not the case, but I can't see that it's not going to not be the case. It has to, people are going to be main decking. I mean, we're going to find out on the tournament this Friday. Dracotail's not a big surprise. They're not going to be like, whoa, I didn't know this deck was so good. They're going to know it's good. They're going to be main decking it. And with this being main decked, it also, when sent to the graveyard, add a maxi from your deck to your hand. Yep, that's what it could do if they have a way to out it because outside of banishing it. It has to be sent to the graveyard, that is. Now, what are some comments real quick on this? And y'all can let me know if you enjoy the format of this type of video or anything you think I missed out on. I don't want to make this too long, that is. If the live twins aren't in here, I will commit let's see. A lot will cry seeing this after wasting all their gems for White Forest, Alt Diabell, and Lab stuff. I guess that is an interesting thought. The thought is Konami accelerating Master Duel? Maybe they have been listening to the community, if not at least myself on stream, continually screaming at them saying that we need diverse metas. We need multiple good top decks. We can't have these one deck metas. It's hurting the Steam charts. It's hurting the player base overall. And instead of waiting 6 months to release the new cards, which is generally when the new cards come out, let's see exactly how that is. So Femina came out in July, and then we'll look at, let's say, Ryzeal, X-Ryzeal, then we'll look at a mouse card. Are they shortening the dates or what? From August, so TCG came out December, and then we got it in July. Oh my, that is a big gap. That is so freaking far away. Wow. And then Ryzeal is the same release time, right? Where's the Ryzeal at? December again. And then Master Duel August, even bigger gap. So we have like 8, 9, 10 month freaking gaps. And then we look at Dracotail here. Where is it? Came out in July, at the end of July. So you may as well say that this came out in August. So we have, I got my fingers, can't see it, September, October, November, December, 4 months? Really? A 4 month? We went from 8 to 10 months after the deck came out with the Malice and Ryzeal to now a 4 month. You would expect this maybe in 2026. So I do think Konami, in a way, is hitting that big red button of, they may be asking, why exactly are we waiting with these big releases? You know, we do want to continually have content to release every single month, but if the meta is trash, if people are quitting the game, then there's no valid excuse for why we're arbitrarily holding off the best decks 6 months plus after they're releasing the TCG or 9 months after the OCG. Let's just give them early. And I do think Konami is enjoying a bigger boost in the player base now ever since the most recent changes after getting out of the Malice and Ryzeal meta, giving us Mitsurugi, I think, was quite early, and then now Dracotail. And I do suspect that on the theme of giving us Dracotail early, we're also expecting Yummy to come out real soon. Also, I would say we're expecting Vanquish Soul and K9 to come out real freaking soon. My guess is that the K9 cards are going to come out for the anniversary because that would make the most sense, right? You'd make the most money if you come out with the furry waifu on the big anniversary, which is when everyone comes back to check the game out again. And boy, I think we're in for some crazy master dueling over the next 3 to 4 months if that's going to be the case. So you tell me if you think that Konami's, I would say, possible new direction of over-accelerating the game. I did see some people actually complaining about it. So to finish my sentence, if you think that them accelerating the game is a good thing or a bad thing, now the complaint I heard is that Konami, what the heck? You're releasing too much good stuff that I'm out of gems. I can't afford all of these good new packs. The White Forest pack was pretty good, not super top tier, but enough to spend your gems here and there. But then now this pack comes out. A lot of people, even though this is not really unprecedented that we have a pack, I knew the pack was coming, obviously a lot of people did, but they were confused that even another pack was coming. They felt like the White Forest pack was our pack. That's it. No, this is the real pack. And Oh boy, it's going to be a real one. So without risking further ranting off into nothingness, I think we're going to end it here, and I'll see you on twitch.tv/Dcade for the new pack tournament. I'll be looking forward to it on Friday. Let's go.